Hello, Facebook funsters. It's Steve Barrett here, Editorial Director of PRWeek. We're ready to record our weekly podcast. We have a very special edition this week. We've got our colleagues from across the newsroom floor from Campaign. We've got Lindsay Stein, who's Editor-in-Chief. How are you doing, Lindsay?
I'm great. How are you?
Well known in this parish from the old days, the good old days, we like to call them. Remember when you used to swear on podcasts for PRWeek? No, we're all grown up now. And Oliver McAteer, who's the Associate Editor of Campaign US. How you doing, Ollie?
I'm good. I'm kind of scared because you're very animated. I haven't seen this animated.
Yeah, well, this is broadcasting, not the sort of grizzled old horrible person that you see in the newsroom every day. Ollie is the Ant Middleton of the US advertising
Can you use
media
something
coverage.
That people here will understand?
Yeah,
well, Google.com is a friend in these circumstances.
I have my phone on airplane.
Everyone will know. Now, we've got these folks with us because it was Cannes last week. They were both there in situ. I'm still recovering, as usual. Got my cough and sore throat. Generally feel like I've been run over by a truck. So that's one of the things at Cannes. So we're going to talk about that over the next sort of 20 minutes and see if we can pull out some trends and what have you. So we're going to start recording soon. If you've got any comments, questions, put them into the Facebook, and please keep it nice and friendly. We know it's social media, but you don't have to be snarky. And we will start recording when I get the sign from my colleague Sean Zarnecki behind the dials and Mickey Brown. Hello and welcome to the PRWeek, PRWeek's regular weekly roundup of everything that matters in the worlds of PR and communications. My name's Steve Barrett. I'm the I'm the editorial director these days of PRWeek, but you know what I mean. And I'm going to guide you gently through about 20-25 minutes of our special podcast this week, because I've got my colleagues with me from Campaign US across the newsroom floor. We're going to be talking about Cannes. We were all there last week, and we're going to pull out some trends. But first of all, we've got Lindsay Stein, who's Editor-in-Chief of Campaign US. Once of this parish, I remember your days on PRWeek, Lindsay, when you were a young strip of a lass. Now you're a fully grown-up editor. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful.
Good. Is that it?
I mean, I'll say more later.
Okay, good. Well, it won't be much of a podcast if you don't.
One word answers this entire podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's one of Lindsay's introductions to Campaign US. One word answers every Friday. Look out for it. And Ollie McAteer, who's the Associate Editor of Campaign US. Ollie, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm very well.
Good.
Yes.
Did you just give yourself a little bit of a promo there?
A promo?
Yeah. Promotion, director.
No, I didn't.
Director
I was giving myself a demotion. But yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about Cannes. Lindsay, you've been a few times now. First of all, why is Cannes important? You know, everyone thinks people are there on a jolly, don't they, or a boondoggle. And there is a bit more to it than that, though, isn't there? And it is quite a special place.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little bit of a boondoggle. There are yachts and
maybe for you. You know, I don't get those invitations. I'm a humble PR hack. You know, I'm not the queen of the.
What is a boondoggle?
A boondoggle. It's a jolly.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the English, the American version of a jolly.
Okay. Yeah.
So, anyway, I think that this year particularly, it really focused on creativity. Went back to it. I think the last couple of years have been a little more tech platform focused and having some of the tech giants on the beach, maybe data. And this year, it really got back to focusing on the work, and even more marketers this year than previous years. AB InBev brought 60 people with them, General Mills brought 20, and they both said that's a lot more than normal. And I just felt like there was a lot more excitement about the work and people being just, I don't know, generally like the fact that creativity can fuel business and drive results, and it was
I think that's a good thing, because it had slightly overheated, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, and we had that year when Publicis announced they were going to take a year off, and the whole thing was redefined. Cannes squeezed it into 5 days, sort of dialed it back a little bit, and I think that's for the better. And it should be all about the work, and it should be all about creativity, and I think that is one of the excellent things about Cannes. There was some great work on offer. Ollie, you hadn't been before, so what, for you as a first timer, what did you think? It's probably still seemed pretty busy to you.
Oh, not to mention your first night there. I'm pretty sure I saw both of you at the gutter bar.
Yes. Let's just get this out of the way. So It was my first year in Cannes. I'd been told stories about the Carlton Terrace. I'd been told stories about the Gutter Bar. So I thought, when did I land? It was Sunday at some point. I went straight to the Carlton Terrace and saw the colleagues and caught up. It was nice and quiet. We had some rosé. I thought I could tick that box. And then something happened between 3 p.m. and sort of 8, 9, 10 going on into the middle of the night, and I find myself at the Gutter Bar and I see this chap over here. There was some work that we did in between all of this, but I have to say the Gutter Bar's quite nice. I didn't expect it to be
okay, on Sunday,
I expected it to be a literal gutter. It was really nice.
Okay, well, yeah. But on Sunday it's like nicer than other days.
It is nice because everyone's still arriving. There is a sort of magnetic field actually when you walk out of the Carlton Terrace. You want to turn right and go off to your accommodation and what have you, but you just get this magnetic pulls you left, and the next thing you know, you're down on the corner at the Gutter Bar.
Buying like 15
little quiz question. What is the actual real name of the Gutter Bar?
72 Croisset.
There you go.
There it is.
We actually had a meeting there on the...
Yeah,
we actually had some serious times there too. Yeah.
So actually, I've had a drink with Andy Polanski, CEO of Oberschenwick, at the Gutter Bar during the day. Yeah, during the day, and it was lovely.
Yeah. So I stumbled out. I walked very sensibly out of the Carlton Terrace. And then I came across this bar, which happened to have loads of people that I knew in it, so I started talking and networking. I didn't realise I was at the Gutter Bar until someone said, "You're actually at the Gutter Bar," and I think that may have been you. And then we took a photo.
We did, which you can see on the social media. Everyone would be really interested.
But I am of the opinion that if you go to Cannes just for the networking alone, I think it's worth it. And the amount of contacts, the amount of good people I met, and the amount of energy that you come away with as well, it's worth it just for that. Yeah, it
and
really
story ideas. People just being like, feature ideas and meeting interesting characters, which some people don't think there are in this industry anymore, but they're
yeah, no, absolutely. You always come away inspired. You always come away exhausted. Yeah. And but it is a great week for that. And of course, there's some socialising, but it's all, most people are talking about work, aren't they? Well, there's some gossiping going on, but most people are talking about work. But tell us a little bit, Lindsay, about were there any campaigns? You talked about the work and how that everyone was focusing down on it again. Were there any campaigns that really stood out for you? That there wasn't a big winner this year in terms of winning across loads of categories, which I like actually. I got really bored when it was Dumb Ways to Die and Always Like a Girl, which won like 10 a dozen. I think the organisers have actually stopped that. I think you're only allowed to enter 6.
I think they might have pushed it to 7 this year. But,
so you can't have that. But even then, there wasn't one big winner. People thought that the Nike
Dream
Crazy might do that, but it didn't really.
It did. I actually thought that should have done better, especially in titanium. I actually thought they should have won.
Talk about the titanium, because the winner there was Burger King,
Whopper Detour, and I read some quotes from David Lugar's, who I love and have a lot of respect for, but I feel like the titanium...
Just remember you're on a PR podcast here, so
sorry.
David Lugar's would be who?
He's the chief officer of BBDO.
Okay.
And
that's an advertising agency.
The titanium lion it should be the work that is, it's groundbreaking, it's envy inspiring, it is culture changing, it should be the work that affects the entire industry and what to look forward to in the next year. And Whopper Detour was much more of like a stunt. Like you said, it was like a geo-targeted thing.
Just to explain, Whopper Detour was basically Burger King doing a geo-targeting campaign that everyone who was in a McDonald's got served an ad basically saying, come to Burger King and you'll get a burger for a penny. And it's a nice idea, but it's a piece of tech, geo-targeting tech, which we talk about a lot here with our friend Ron Scalici, don't we? He's who works for Haymarket. Now there's a little bit more to the idea than that. There was some social around it, etc. But it was, it was an interesting piece. But to have that, I think I agree with you. To have that, I think it won the direct. Was it the direct Grand Prix that it won? Which I could see. Maybe I could see it winning that. But winning the titanium, I probably agree with you. Maybe you do want something a bit bigger.
A little, maybe, affecting culture, because I don't see that a change in culture at all. And I guess in the past that's what I thought titanium was about. But I think Ollie and I both agree that one of our favorite pieces was the last issue.
Yeah, the last issue is 100% my favourite piece of work that I've probably seen this year, and I think it deserved. I can't remember what
it won the Grand Prix in glass, which makes sense. But why don't you explain it a little bit for people who don't know?
Tell us what the last issue is.
Yeah, so this is a campaign by VML Weinar, and they teamed up with the brands.
It was MasterCard and BNP, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they teamed up to buy what was essentially the most popular porn magazine in Poland, and they bought it to shut it down. But before they did, they released one final issue, and it was all about women's rights and equality, and they got in some top journalists to write all these features, and that's it essentially. But when you talk about campaigns that have an impact on culture and a real influences, that kind of topped out.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing about Cannes is that the whole idea of a discipline like advertising or media or direct marketing or PR or digital is kind of meaningless, isn't it? I mean, how do you categorize an idea like that? It's just a great idea. It's a big idea that utilizes a lot of these ideas utilize earned media, which is where the PR roots come from. So that's to me was the most interesting thing of the week, that you get that in front of you writ large, that there are no real disciplines anymore, that everyone's kind of in the same space.
I mean, Mark Pritchard,
Mark Pritchard is the chief brand officer at Procter & Gamble.
Yep, yeah. And Monday morning, I actually specifically asked because I was
talking... Nicky Gonzalez.
He's amazing.
He could have been named, which we'll come back to that.
Yes. So I was with Jill Tannenbaum from Weber Steinwick on the Sunday night.
You spent a lot of time hanging around with PR people.
I do. It was back in my roots.
Yeah.
It's 5 years of PR.
Trying to muscle in on our space.
It's all integrated, as you just said.
I did. Yes, that's true.
So she was like, if you're seeing Mark tomorrow, can you ask him about PR and the power of PR? So I did. And at the end of the interview, I was like, I do have to ask something from my PR roots. Like, what do you think about PR? And can it be as creative as advertising and et cetera? And he said that he has so much respect for his PR agencies, and no matter how good the piece of creative work is, even The Talk, which was from BBDO last year and is an incredible piece of film, he said none of it would have been as big if it wasn't for PR and earned media. And so he just went off about how great that is.
Yeah, he's been on record saying that before, which is good to know. He's a ubiquitous figure at the festival, isn't he? He couldn't really get away from it.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah,
sorry. That's the layover from Cannes is me getting my cough back. Sorry, listeners. But Mark Pritchard was on a lot of stages. He was it was live judging this year for the first time, which I wish I'd known about. I didn't know about that. And apparently you could go and watch Mark Pritchard pitching his idea to a jury, and which is a total reversal of the normal scenario, because the jury's made up of agency executives. So you've got the one of the most powerful marketers in the world, if not the most powerful, pitching his idea to agencies. So really flipping it. Yeah. And I would have loved to have seen that. I spoke to some people who were there, and that would something I'm definitely going to check out next year. The live judging. And apparently he pitched, and then there was another P&G pitch, which was the next stage of the First Shave campaign, which was with a transgender individual who actually was there pitching, doing the pitch. So I think that would, if I had to make it, people ask you what's the best thing or the thing that you would do in Cannes. Because I think one of the things to do is not necessarily just follow the crowds and go to the obvious big main stage things. Ollie, I don't know, did you manage to get to any? You didn't even go in the Palais.
You beat me to it. I did not even step foot in the Palais. And look, I mean, our job is...
You're that guy.
I am that guy, but our job is looking at the work every day. I don't feel like I'd seen all the work, but the stories I was getting back from the Palais, yes, I should have gone in and checked out myself, but the story I was getting back was, the queues were really long. It kind of looked like...
The lines.
The lines one. The whole setup inside the Palais, it kind of looks like when you walk around primary school. junior school, and they have like people's homework on the
Oh,
wall.
yeah,
It looked like that.
true,
I expected a bit more,
That
and I
is
really like the
amazing.
activations around it. I think MediaLink
Yeah.
did a really good job with the CLX this year.
That's smart.
They have some.
What was that?
They have some good activations. What's that gaming company called? I think the gaming company
Activision
is
Blizzard.
That's right. Yeah.
lots of VR, AR, new tech experiences, XR stuff. So that was all good. The stuff surrounding the Palais, and when I spoke to Michael Cassin, who leads MediaLink, before we went out, he said he really wanted to do this to get everyone back to the Palais, because obviously Cannes is sprawling. I mean, everyone's all over the place.
Obviously, like Palais 2 was right across from MediaLink, the smaller Palais. And
I did not know there was a Palais 2.
Not to bring it back to P&G, but they had their innovation lab up there, and it is awesome. And it's kind of like we went to South by Southwest, and we went to the activation house for Accenture Interactive. And first you're kind of like, oh, this is going to be kind of lame, and they show up what technologies they're using. I would say every piece of technology that I saw at P&G's lab is useful pieces of technology. It's not just technology for technology's sake. It's like those are product innovations that are useful and amazing. Like SK2, which is a luxury skincare brand. You would look.
It's big in Asia.
Yeah, so I have so many stories about that brand. But anyway, so you'd go, the person that was Damon Jones from P&G was walking me
Another
through.
PR guy.
Yes. He was walking me through, and he was like, don't touch any of the products, just look at them. And then so I would look at one, and as I looked at one, it would start to tell me what it is, and I would turn my head and I looked down, this corner started to tell, so it reads your eyes, and the longer your eyes linger on it, the more it tells you about it. It's because if you're testing stuff and it's on your hands, you don't want to have to be picking up the labels and reading it. It's even little things like that are
this is
really
why
smart.
It's so exciting for tech right now. It's because it's no longer just gimmicks. I mean, a few years ago we'd be walking around these conferences and it would just be gimmicks. And now these things are being displayed adoption. It's showing results of actual good use.
These are really
Which is good, because Cannes does sometimes get criticised for a lot of the work there is not real. In fact, some of the campaigns.
Well, some of it still probably isn't real.
Yeah, I think there's an element of that, but I think they're trying to clamp down on that, which is good. Talking about, we talked a lot about Procter & Gamble, but one of the speeches that did get a lot of attention was actually the CEO of Unilever, Alan Jobe, who came up with this brilliant phrase, which we're all going to be using now, called woke washing. And purpose was another big trend, wasn't it, during the week? Why are we giggling about that?
Well, woke washing, I mean...
Come on, Ollie, what's your problem? It's another great acronym.
You tell me what you think woke washing means. Define woke washing.
I see it as purpose washing. Is the word. He's just come up with a better way to say it.
Yeah, and I think he has a point in terms of there are a lot of brands that are jumping on the cultural bandwagon just to jump on it and try and seem cool. But this is why I like this age that we're living in, because that stuff gets sniffed out like that.
That's true.
And with social media, you can't do that. Brands that are silly enough to do that and jump on the cultural bandwagon will be sniffed out within seconds of it launching.
So it's got to be truly authentic.
It has to be authentic.
And you know where you can find out more about that, Lindsay and Ollie? At the PRWeek conference in October in Chicago, which is called Purpose Principles, and we will be digging deep into that topic.
I thought you were going to say Campaign US.
No, I was PRWeek, and we're going to have our first Purpose Awards that night as well. So we're going to reward some of the best work too. So and you also have your own Campaigns for Good. Do you want to give that a plug, Lindsay?
We call it Power of Purpose Awards.
Power of Purpose Awards.
Yes,
and when do they take place?
We just had them in April, but we are going to change it up a little bit next year. We're going to have categories, because purpose is very broad term. So that could be pro bono. It could be just a brand that has a strong purpose, like Nike. It could be, the government. It's just very broad. So next year it's going to be a little different. Be a little more streamlined.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the PR Lions, as we are on the PRWeek podcast.
Another year without PR agency winning, right?
Well, thank you for pointing that out, Lindsay. Yes.
The lines are blurred. They're too blurred.
Thank you very much. Yes. No, but obviously that is a big topic, isn't it, for PR firms, that we don't seem to be able to win in our own category, which is a little bit vexing. We do quite well in the other categories, ironically, but in the PR category. The gold was the tampon book by an agency called Schultz and Friends in Berlin. It was a book against tax discrimination. It's a really neat idea, actually, the fact that tampons were taxed at 17%, they're taxed as a luxury good.
Oh, wow. That's like
Germany.
The pig tax here.
And which is crazy when you think about it. It's not a luxury good. And books are taxed at 7%, as are a lot of other items. So they made a book to make that point, make that connection, and did a really nice campaign. And I think it was a worthy Grand Prix winner, although Gail Hyman, another Weber executive, well known to PRWeek listeners and viewers, she did say, because there was this same old, when the people came up on stage to get the lion, it was mainly guys, even for this campaign. And she said, the classic line, I'd rather have more people, fewer campaigns about menstruation and more people on stage who actually menstruate.
Very good.
Which was quite a nice way of putting it. It was sort of Cindy Gallop-esque almost, wasn't it? Because I remember actually one year when Cindy was the chair of jury of the Glass Lions, I think it was the first year, she was on stage and you could see her getting more and more angry that everyone who came up to win the Lions was male, even in the Glass Lions, apart from Always Like a Girl, which was the Grand Prix winner, which was a great campaign, and from Procter & Gamble and MSL Group and Leah Burnett. So that was a good winner, but in the golds we should mention Golin, that they won a gold for idea creation. Do you want to explain that part of it? That they've changed the categorization, or are you looking blankly at me?
I wrote that story, but that was like a year or two ago.
No, I'm talking about the way they categorize the lions. So there was always a big dispute about who gets the credit, right, for the big idea. So they actually formalized it so that now you have to say who is the idea creation credit, and then there are secondary credits for different disciplines, media, PR, etc. So that really means the ones you won are the idea creation ones. And Golin won that for idea creation for their
really
Big Mac, McDonald's Mac Coin. So, and that was one of only 6 gold winners, but that was another trend this year. They seem to be giving away fewer lions, frankly. So they've got smaller juries. They had fewer entries. They did have fewer entries in the PR category, although not as few as the proportion they gave away. They gave away 6 golds this year. It was 14 last year, and entries were down 12%. So that's obviously a bigger thing.
So just going back to that Matt coin is woke washing, I think.
Well, that's a bit of it. You better not say that in front. Well, Matt Neal's going to have something to say to you about that, isn't he? And Caroline Denton.
I would categorise that as jumping on the cultural bandwagon.
In what way?
There were a bunch of brands that did the whole Bitcoin.
This is what I mean.
Like we wrote like a bunch of. What was the other one? Is it
There was one by
Oscar
Mayer,
who did everyone was doing it.
Explain how that's jumping on the woke washing.
So the Bitcoin trend explodes. Obviously, I can't remember when it exploded. If it was last year or earlier this year, everyone was jumping on making their version of a coin. So Oscar Mayer did it, and then Big Bag,
But then also Burger King to troll McDonald's, because remember McDonald's were they expired after a while. They said bring your expired ones to us and we'll give you a burger or whatever. So there's just a lot of.
I don't know where purpose comes into that.
No, but just woke in general is culture, not purpose.
Okay, so
because woke doesn't mean purpose.
Woke means I might be dating myself, but I thought woke meant cool.
That's what I thought. Culturally relevant.
Yeah, just being culturally relevant, and then if being purpose driven is just a slice of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, but actually that does bring us to a good point. Burger wars seem to be all over the place. So you had the McDonald's with Golin, you had the Wendy's with Ketchum.
Oh, Wendy's is so
Fortnite,
good. Their work is
which did really well.
Yeah, oh my god,
that's
it's
my
so
favourite
good.
piece of work too. The Fortnite one's just incredible.
Yeah, the ML are as well.
They actually they just went into the game and created a character, an avatar. It didn't cost any money. It was just a very creative idea.
Yeah, made it look like Wendy with the red hair. It looked really badass. And we actually talked to the agency about this, and the CEO, John Cook, and Debbie Van Diepen, the global chief PR officer, were walking by the Kansas City office, and they didn't know this campaign was going on, so they just had a bunch of people just playing video games, and they were what is this? Because it was 16 hours straight that they would just go in and they would break they would take a hammer and whatever, hack it and just
we should explain what that is, because obviously Wendy's
always fresh, never frozen beef.
Exactly, and carry on.
So they realized that the freezers in the burger joints in this game Fortnite had frozen burgers in it. So they were we have to stop that from happening. And it's funny and culturally relevant. So they went and they broke every freezer in the game and went like, it's a huge game. Just kept doing it for hours, and people in the game loved it.
Yeah,
and helping them. People started helping them.
It was so clever because so many brands have tried and failed to get into Fortnite, and they found a really authentic way to do it, which is like Wendy's being cheeky. It's right down their DNA, and they managed to get Twitch on board as well, which is another platform that brands are really trying to get involved with.
Yeah.
So they had all of these Twitch players that were like, oh, we need to follow Wendy's. And then they came out and said, yes, that's right, we are doing this, and it just escalated from there. It was a fantastic example of an agency working with a brand. So being woke AF, Steve. So it was
I'm learning a new language this week. This has been very educational for me. Thank you, Ollie and Lindsay. But Ketchum worked on that as well. And I thought that was a great example. Awesome. And you could I'm getting confused with all my burgers now. So we've got the Burger King one, which was the geofencing. We talked about the Matcoin. IHOP.
Oh, that's right.
Which was the burger. That was a good one. And
Droga, I think.
It was, and De Vries PR. We'll give the PR firm a mention.
I'm joking.
But I must admit, some of the other golds in the PR category, I was less impressed by. I like the wins. Never felt better. That's Budweiser and AB InBev. They were, like you said, they were in there in force, and Weber Shandwick through their 3 p.m. tie-up with PMKBNC had some good. The bit victory for each, they did quite well for that.
And actually, do you know that Marcel, the CMO of AB InBev, honored Weber internally as one of the most influential agencies in their network?
And I think that's an idea where they did get full credit for a big idea. But on this one, it was actually David in Miami who lost their 2 main creatives. A little bit of an advertising story directly after camp, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, they signed stuff and they couldn't.
Yeah, there's a story here that if you go to Campaign US in the next couple of weeks, you will see the full story.
Okay.
But yeah,
check it out, folks.
There's more to be told.
Yeah.
But they've won 47 lions between them or something, so that's quite a loss for the agency.
Yeah, it was 67. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Just making sure you just get your numbers right.
Yes, indeed. But there was some other ones. There was one second chance. God.
Do you want me to read that for you?
I think Second Chance, which was for Donate Life California, where they essentially, if you got stopped for speeding and you had a donor card, they let you off. And I thought, that's an interesting idea, and it did stimulate 340,000 extra people signing up.
But also, if you speed, you're going to need those organ cards because you're going to get in an accident.
But that's what I thought. I thought we're rewarding people who are breaking. Yes. Yeah. So that I was a bit. I had mixed feelings about that. It was very effective. They did get 350,000 new sign-ups, and actually it's spreading to other forces now. It's spreading to Canada as well. So, which sounds a boot, right? As Thomas More would say.
It's like giving a cigarette to someone who stopped smoking for 6 months and doing a good job.
Yeah, do you know anyone like that?
I didn't have.
Anyway, and the other one was the 3D printing one, where you printed off a gun.
Oh yeah,
and it was deliberately faulty. That was
great. There were so many 3D printing stories this year.
Yeah, there were. That was a trend. Harmless Guns by Dagoma,
and
entered by TBWA Paris, and that was that one. And again, I thought I didn't get that. I know a lot of people liked it, but I was like, well.
I actually liked the 3D printing one better, and I can't remember the agency, and I never wrote the story, but it was an anti-gun one that they did 3D prints of students who were killed used by guns, and it was very.
I mean, I think there's a lot of scope for that. Yeah. But I didn't quite get this one. I was glad to see Peru win a gold lion in PR because I travelled over there earlier this year, and Pablo Catariano, who's works for Metrica over there, showed us around Lima. So I was texting him during the ceremony, sending him the pictures, and very patriotic and very pleased. It was all about Peru getting to the World Cup, the Soccer World Cup last year, and actually working with a supermarket to get affordable food in Russia. But again, I got to be honest, I didn't actually think that stood up against some of the other work that was in the silver and bronze lions. I mean, I loved our special Affleck duck, which we had as a guest on our podcast a few weeks ago with Catherine Glades. That won a couple of silver lions, and I actually felt that deserved a bit more credit than it got, because it really has made a big difference to kids, sick kids, and you could trace the impact that it had, and it's kind of creative. But yeah, so you can debate the juries and
we also,
the winners, can't you?
I think one of the biggest things too is that it's such a global, award show. Like some of the things that you think might resonate more in the US because they've done so well here on prediction lists just don't, because it's
I think you're right, totally right, and actually that's one of the beauties of it. It is so global that you see everyone's work, you get inspired, you meet people from different parts of the world, very creative, people from all over the world, Venezuela, Colombia.
Oh, yeah, the president of Colombia was there, and I did a Q&A with him.
There you go.
And it was amazing. He's the youngest president of Colombia ever, and it was his first time going to Cannes. And he went because he wanted to talk about how he thinks that creativity and creative businesses are fueling the economy, and that other countries, especially in like South America and Latin America, should be focusing on those industries like arts and entertainment.
And that's a rejuvenated country, isn't it? So you get this sort of wash of global influences and creativity in it, and it was fantastic. Any other final thoughts on Cannes, Ollie? Your first one, what would you do differently? It's a bit of a sort of mind F, to use your phrase, isn't it?
I don't get that one. Can you explain?
Yeah, that's wood washing. That's too much.
It washes over you. Shut up, Lindsay. Stop causing trouble.
If I could do it, I don't know if I'd do it differently. I think the next
you
time...
might actually go to the Palais.
I think the next time I might actually go to the Palais. I might actually write some stories. No, I wrote stories. I think I'll allocate my time better. But also I think it's really important just to spend, a day, half a day, just walking up and down the Croisette, meeting people, bumping into people, spending time in the Palais, making sure that you walking around and seeing who's spending what on the yachts, saying hi to the people on the yachts. Yacht row, by the way, that was vulgar. That was vulgar.
That was very ad tech oriented, wasn't it?
No, I mean,
a lot of people were bemoaning that.
There was VaynerMedia,
Video app.
There was there was an OpenX yacht, I think.
Yeah.
I walked down there to go to the Wall Street Journal house, which was right down at the end, and I saw a really great presentation there about the Hispanic US population. Claudia Roma Edelman, and Mark Pritchard was on that. That's where actually I should explain that story. Mark Pritchard, during that session, and I know he's explained this before, but he explained how his real name, he's actually half Mexican. He was adopted as a child, and his real name is Mickey Gonzalez.
And he brought that up at Ad Color last year.
Yeah, that's right, I remember. That was the first time, wasn't it?
Yeah, we wrote the story, we were the only journalists there, so we were the only ones who wrote that story, and he said...
Congrats, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, actually,
I was there with you, not for that bit. Not for that one.
But when
I remember seeing at the bar. But
I remember that.
Ollie.
The bar afterwards. He actually did come up to us and thank us for writing that story, but he cried 3 times on stage. It was the most authentic and real speech I've seen in a real long time, and he said he was always kind of ashamed of that, because he was told by his family to not embrace his Mexican heritage, and he feels like if his name was Mickey Gonzalez, he wouldn't be in the position.
That's right. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he said that, and that's a nice story. And what Claudia was saying is there's 59 million Hispanics in the US, and if that was an economy, that would be the 7th biggest economy in the world, right? So her point is that her big thing is that the Hispanic population should join together, because it's obviously a mishmash of 20 different nations originally, and that it can have a lot of power. And she drew the comparison with the Asian American community. I'm not sure I totally see that happening. I think a lot of young Hispanic origin Americans basically speak English, and they aspire to, and they are brought up as American, and they have the same cultural norms. But it's an interesting point of view, and I think it is a segment that is ignored a little bit by marketers, and are very powerful and a lot of disposable income. So that was another great session. I mean, there were other things. I didn't get to go to the female quotient lounge this year.
That's one of the stops that we always make. We always make sure we stop by the FQ at every single conference.
Because that was right up at the Martinez, which is at the end, right? Even further up than the gutter bar.
Yeah, the conversations are very culturally relevant and really on point. They're always talking a lot about diversity, and this is why I love it, because it's very like human and raw and honest. You don't get all this leadership.
Yeah, and actually, like at 4A's in DC, you had female leaders in the audience with other female leaders being open, but then during the Q&A, there was a CEO, and I'll keep her nameless in case she doesn't want to be named, but just CEO of an agency who just raised her hand and was like kind of going off, well, I disagree with this, can you explain this and like how you do that? And it was great to see female leaders like going back and forth and sharing their thoughts about what's going on.
I went to the FQ in Davos actually earlier this year, and Michael Roth did a session, and Michael Roth is the archetypal 70 plus white male sort of holding company CEO, and he walks in and you can sort of feel the sort of atmosphere at the start, but he actually won everyone over with a very engaging. He was showing the work, showing some of the work they were doing in Procter & Gamble actually, and he'd won everyone over by the end, and I saw he was on the agenda again.
He always does that stuff. And actually, like this year for our Female Frontier Awards, like a spoiler alert, we're going to have an editorial pick where it's going to be the male champion, like who's been the best male ally for females in the past year.
It might even be you, Steve.
I doubt that. But, there was the Inkwell Beach, which again I didn't get to. There was a lot of diverse discussion going on there.
I wrote about it. I didn't even see where it was.
Yeah, well, I think it was along the beach area. What did you think generally about the diversity of Cannes? Because it's still a very, frankly, white and even still predominantly male event, isn't it? And
I mean, this is why I stayed away from the cartoon quite a lot, because the cartoon was very much like that. It was very, old white man-ish. I was trying very hard to seek out the spots, that were filled with different people who didn't think like me.
Yeah.
But
there's no point going to Cannes, by the way. Just hanging with the people that you spend the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's we hardly saw each other, did we? Which was great. No. And that's fine. You can see those people in your normal run-of-the-mill business. Finally, let's end with WPP. They had their own beach for the first time. So that was sort of Mark Reed making his bit of a statement, I suppose. This is different to Martin Starrell, who was also there.
I think it was a great statement, because he's like, and I wrote a story about it that came out, I think it was yesterday, I don't even remember, 2 days ago. And it was about how he's leading from the front in a different way than Martin was leading from the front. And he is focusing on WPP being a creative brand itself. And one of my favorite quotes he said was, if you go to the movies and you see a Pixar or a DreamWorks logo, you think, oh, I know that's going to be a creative movie. You regardless of who's directing it or anything. So he wants people to see a WPP logo and think, if I go to a WPP event, that's going to be a creative event with good agencies, good people, and strong creative work, regardless if it's Ogilvy or Gray or AKQA, etc.
So it's building WPP as a brand in the same way that Procter & Gamble would always be in the past about the brands, and then they started using P&G with the win in the Olympics, and that's the Moms campaign. Yeah, that's interesting stuff, and it was interesting to talk to Mark. You got any Martin Sorrell stories you want to share with us, Ollie?
Oh, I couldn't possibly.
No, okay.
I couldn't possibly.
No, that might be a good. That might be a good point to end the podcast. Thank you so much, Lindsay, Ollie. Great to hang with you. Great to chat to you.
Thank you very much.
It was a good week. Well done on all your hard work. And that's it, folks. We'll see you next time on the PR Week.